is no place in the United States of America where 2, 3, 4-hour waits to vote is acceptable. And just because it's happening in a blue state doesn't mean that it's not voter suppression. You know, if we are waiting 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, if this was happening in a swing state, there would be national coverage. So I don't want us to think that just because this is a blue state that this isn't a problem. This is very clearly a problem. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But that being said, at the same time, I am thrilled to see how many people who are overcoming this injustice, waiting in the lines anyway, bringing community supplies, snacks, lawn chairs. You know, we are going to overcome this hurdle so that we can elect the folks that will make sure that this will not be a problem in the future.
When you say voter suppression, do you mean to suggest that you think here in New York City it's being done intentionally?
Listen, voter suppression, it could be intentional, it could be unintentional. You know, I think that at the end of the day, if the line to your polling place is so long that you don't vote, that is a form of disenfranchisement. And so whether it's intentional or unintentional, to me, that is less a concern as it is that it's happening anyway. But you know what? Again, we've got so many people that are thrilled to vote. This is our first federal election, a general election where we have early voting. And frankly, we fought to get an extra early voting place. And frankly, this also shows the success of early voting as well. This is the first time that we've seen lines this long for early voting. So you know what? I'm extremely excited about that. And we're going to make sure that this is a smoother process.
Tell us why it's worth it for you and apparently for others to wait 2 or 3 hours to do this.
Well, you know,
make a change.
That's right, to make a change. And to me, what is important to me is that I want my vote counted the night that the polls close. And the way that we do that is by showing up in person. You know, if you can't show up in person, you don't want to show up in person, mail in that ballot. You can do it. If you haven't mailed it in yet, you can even show up to your local board of elections and hand it in person to make sure that it's delivered. And so you can do that. But I wanted to make sure that my vote was tallied the night that the polls close. So I will wait 2 hours, just like my neighbors are, to make sure that that happens. And it is a privilege and honor to do so.
How does it feel voting today after all these years?
Yeah, well, you know, voting every time is a very emotional experience for me. It never gets old to see that, you know, thousands of your neighbors have signed petitions to put your name on that ballot. And it's just a privilege every single time. I think that voting is a celebration and it's a joyful event. I can't wait until Election Day is a federal holiday, and so people don't have to take off work or anything like that. I can't wait for us to expand mail-in voting so it happens every election, not just during a pandemic. I can't wait for us to expand early voting because it's a tremendous honor.
This is your first re-election. What is the state of the progressive movement with a nominee who is considered more of a centrist liberal?
Yeah, well, I actually believe that right now the progressive movement is stronger than ever. And I'm extremely excited at the discipline, the strength that the progressive movement has built. I think that there's an extraordinary amount of focus on our agenda, on our mission, to make sure that we guarantee health care for every American in this country without going bankrupt, to make sure that we lobby, pressure, and advocate for the strongest climate agenda that we've had in American history, to make sure that people have good wages and decent jobs. And so, you know, I believe that we are very well poised to be influential, not just in this election, but in knock on wood, the coming administration.
You kind of have to pinch yourself 2 years after running as someone who wasn't given a chance in the primary?
Oh, absolutely. It's surreal every single time. And, you know, to stand for re-election in my community and to make my case, I believe that that ultimately the seat does not belong to me. The seat belongs to our community, and to make that case every year is a tremendous honor. And I'm absolutely pinching myself.
Are you, the progressive, are you going to vote on the Working Families Party line? What do you?
I am proudly voting for the Biden-Harris ticket on the Working Families Party line. That accomplishes, you know, many priorities that the progressive movement has, not just in the country, but right here in the state of New York. We're able to preserve and expand the Working Families Party so that they can continue to support progressive candidates, including insurgents, to hold the Democratic Party accountable. And we can make sure that we're voting out Trump and not throwing away our presidential eventual vote.
We're watching a lot of young people come to the poll. There's breaking numbers comparing to other elections. What does that mean?
Well, listen, I am so excited about the just tidal wave of young people at the polls, because this isn't just about young people turning out to support the Democratic Party. This is about young people setting the agenda. They're not just voting to say, listen to young people. They're voting around very specific issues. They're having demands around gun safety. They're organizing around demands around climate change, around jobs, around student loan forgiveness and medical debt forgiveness. There's a very substantive movement that young people are turning out for. And the more they turn out, the more the next administration, whether it's your congressional candidate or whether it is your candidate for the presidency, are going to be accountable to the demands of young people.
And considering all the record-breaking early voting we're seeing, are we expecting to have results on November 3rd by night, or maybe it will be delayed by all this?
Well, I would not be surprised if there were delays in the returns because of the overwhelming amount of mail-in ballots. This is not unusual, and it's perfectly normal. We've seen this in primaries. We've seen this in prior elections, where states with mail-in ballots officially certified their results some weeks after the election. So I think it's very important to let folks know that if results are not certified election night, that's because mail-in ballots still have to be counted. It's not unusual. It's a very normal part of our process. Of course, I want to see overwhelming in-person polling results.